My name is Blake, and I've always been an outdoorsman. I enjoy spending my time outdoors fishing, camping, and going on long hikes. My parents recently purchased a new home in a very forested and isolated plot of land. It was my turn to stay the weekend at our new vacation home, and I decided to go alone. I made it up to the house, and it was absolutely beautiful. I was in my element, solitary, quiet nature. I unloaded my bags and headed inside to get settled. After getting settled, I decided to do some exploring on the property. I found a small trail and decided to see where it would take me. Big mistake. I walked about 30 minutes or so and stumbled upon a massive tree. It stood out from the others. I noticed there were things on the floor. I approached the tree and noticed all sorts of weird things. I found 3 candles, jars of different dried herbs, a pendant with a star in the center, the mandible of a deer, and a book. Did I just stumble into the ritual site of a witch? I thought to myself. I kneeled down and went right for the book. I couldn't understand what the book said, as it was written in another language, but it looked like Latin. I tried to read a sentence out of the book and felt an overwhelming feeling of dread come over my entire body. I don't know why, but I felt like my life was in danger. I heard the snapping of a branch behind me. I looked back and saw a figure. It was tall, maybe 5'10". It wore a long black cloak, multiple rings on its fingers, and wore the skull and horns of a deer on their face. I froze. I couldn't react. I was literally paralyzed by fear. The figure started walking towards me, and still, I couldn't move. I felt my heart rate increasing and sweat dripping down my face. The figure took another step, and when I heard the snapping of a branch, I reacted. I took off running as fast as I could, but when I looked back, the figure was running after me. I was literally crapping my pants. I've never felt such intense fear. I could see my home in the distance, and as I approached my home, I looked back. I was alone. Cell reception here is really bad, and the landline in my house wasn't working. After calming myself down, I decided to eat something quick, lock up the doors, arm myself, and head upstairs for some rest. I'm not sure how I can even fall asleep after experiencing something so terrible, but eventually I did. I woke up to a tap on my window. I immediately reached for my firearm and walked cautiously to my window. I scanned the perimeter, and in the distance I could see the figure. I couldn't see its eyes, but I could feel its gaze. I opened my window and let off 2 rounds towards the figure. It ran off. Luckily, I was only 2 hours away from daylight. I stayed up all night and left as soon as it was bright outside. What should have been a fun weekend easily became the scariest night of my life. This is 100% a true story. It's going to sound pretty insane, but I swear that everything I'm about to tell you actually happened. During the fall semester of my senior year of high school, about 14 years ago now, every night after dinner with my family, I'd walk my dog Jessie down the street to a small field near our house. 2 things you should know. 1, my house is situated on a hill, and you have to walk over the top of it and all the way to the bottom to get to the field, lined with trees, lots of street lamps, so it's pretty well lit, but can still seem spooky at times. 2, Jessie is one of the most well-behaved golden retrievers I've ever seen in my life. She never barks at anyone, never runs off. She doesn't even chase squirrels. So normally, I don't keep her on a leash when we're just walking down the street. I start walking with her down our steps to the street, just like any other night. It's about 9:30 p.m. and the sun is long gone. We usually walk down the middle of the road because not that many cars drive through. Jessie's not on a leash, but right by my side as we round the top of the hill to go down, when all of a sudden we see a woman walking towards us in the middle of the road. We're at the top of the hill, and she's about halfway up, staggering in this weird, unnatural sort of way. She was walking almost as if she was a ghost out of The Grudge or some horrible Silent Hill character. But when I first saw her, I wasn't really scared. just more worried if she was okay. I thought maybe she'd been hit by a car and one of her legs was broken, but she was moving along in a jolted but steady pace. She had long black hair and a dark dress. Her skin was pretty pale in the street lamp's light. I didn't really know what to do or make of the scene. I just kind of stopped, staring at her when suddenly Jessie started running toward her, barking like crazy. I've never seen her bark like this before. I honestly feel like if someone broke into our house, she'd just go up to them expecting to be petted. But here, she was growling ferociously, almost like she was ready to strike. I chased after her, only catching up when she was right in front of the woman, basically barking in her face. The woman didn't react at all. She didn't jump, didn't put her hands out. She just stood there staring at my dog. I bent down, grabbing Jessie by the collar to put her back. I was maybe 2 feet from the woman. I started apologizing profusely, but when I turned my head up to look at her, I stopped. I'm crouched down, looking up at her with a street lamp shining down on both of us. She slowly turns and looks down toward me without saying anything. I immediately see it. She doesn't have a face. Not in that her features were all mixed together, washed that way. She literally doesn't have a face. It's complete blackness. Like looking into the sky and staring at the blackness between two stars. I can see her hair, I can see her neck, but I can't see a single feature in between. I'm telling you, it was absolute and utter black. A void. I looked into it, stopped dead mid-apology as she looks down back at me without a word. I looked into it, stopped dead mid-apology as she looks down back at me without a word. After a few seconds of just staring at each other in silence, she turns away and looks back forward, commencing to walk again. I let go of my dog's collar more in surprise than anything, and immediately Jessie runs away to the other side of the street. Chasing her, I catch up and grab her collar again on the sidewalk now. It couldn't have been more than 3 to 5 seconds, but holding my dog again, I turned to look back at the woman, and she disappeared. At the rate she was walking, it should have taken her at least 30 seconds to get to the top of the hill, but there was nothing. She completely vanished. At the time, this was weirdly the most unsettling part for me. What the just happened? Did it even happen? My dog had reacted to her too, so I wasn't the only one who saw it. Slowly I took Jessie the rest of the way down and watched as she ambled around the field. The whole time I kept looking over my shoulder, deeply afraid that something was going to sneak up on me. All night, I became more and more bothered by what happened, trying to rationalize it away. Maybe the way her hair fell blocked the light, but I would have seen something. The tip of her nose, part of her mouth, but there was nothing. Literally nothing. I'm not religious, and the logical part of me doesn't believe in ghosts. If there's no heaven or hell, how do you explain this kind of afterlife where we still keep our bodies, our minds? I didn't even know. I still don't quite believe in spirits, but I genuinely can't explain what happened that night. I've had some lesser encounters with weird phenomena, but this is the only time I've been within arm's reach of a ghost, actually stared one in the face as it looked back at me. Do you have any memories from your childhood that haunt you? When I was 8 years old, I was trusted to stay home alone while my mom went to take my brother to basketball practice and my dad was at jiu-jitsu class. I finished my homework and decided to play some video games. I put my headphones on, but right as I was putting my headphones on, I could hear my mom calling my name. Brayden. Yes, Mom? She didn't reply. Yes, Mom? Nothing. I shrugged and went back to my video game. I heard my name again, and again I said, Yes, Mom, and again nothing. I should have stood up and walked over to her, but instead I sat there playing online with my friends. I looked at the corner of the TV and saw the reflection of my mom, and again she said, Brayden. I turned around and said, Yes, Mom. She was gone. I took my headphones off and walked out into the hallway, calling for my mom, and again I could hear my name being called in the distance. I started walking towards the kitchen, but every time I called for my mom and she would call for me, it felt like her voice kept getting further and quieter. I heard her yell my name in frustration. I ran to the kitchen and saw no one. I was confused and started to get worried. Why did my mom keep calling my name and not showing her face? That's when I heard my name again, but behind the door of the basement. I could hear my mom whisper, "Brayden." I could also hear a deep, low growling. I put my ear up to the door to listen, and BAM! Someone slammed their hand on the door, causing me to stumble back, rubbing my ear. The basement door flew open, and I could see a dark figure standing still. I ran to my bedroom. I could hear the low growling following close behind me. I jumped into my bed and covered myself with my blanket. I could feel the figure approaching my bed, the low growl growing closer. It ripped the blanket off from me. To my shock, I was alone. I heard the front door open, and I could hear my family walking in. I asked my mom if they all just got home, and she said yes. I decided not to tell my parents anything that happened out of fear that I wouldn't be trusted to stay home alone again. Nothing else happened after that. If I could go back, I would tell my parents everything that happened. Maybe the trauma wouldn't have been as bad.